Welcome to the Wisdom Historian channel. Today I will tell you the story. A day in the life of a Tang Dynasty Teahouse server. Section 1. Morning fog and sticky floors. The streets of Chang'an are still sleeping when you wake. Not even the roosters have the decency to crow this early. You rise with a soft groan. Your bones creaking louder than the floorboards underfoot. It's always like this, cold in the mornings. Damp from the mist rolling off the city walls. And your blanket never quite thick enough. Your tea house is tucked just off the main thoroughfare, down a winding alley perfumed with distant incense and closer smells less poetic. You step inside, the air already dense with the ghost of yesterday's oolong and fried dumpling grease. The floor is sticky, again. You can never quite scrub out the residue, no matter how hard you try. Through the fogged-up windows, dawn spills in like warm tea into a cracked cup, hesitantly. And not quite evenly. Dust motes dance lazily in the shaft of light that lands on the old counter. The wooden planks creak under your bare feet as you move toward the back room. Still too tired to lace your sandals. The teapots sit in silent judgment on the shelf, some cracked, some chipped, all very much needing a rinse. You sigh. Another long day begins. You reach for the water buckets first, carrying them one by one from the communal well. It's quiet in the streets, except for the faint sound of someone practicing the flute 3 alleys over. The melody is slow, wistful, or maybe you're just still half asleep. Your fingers are cold as they grip the worn handle of the kettle. You've lit the stove so many times. Your body does it without thinking. Pile the charcoal, strike the spark, fan it gently. The little flames catch with a familiar pop. The smell of smoke curls into your sleeves. You glance around the tea house while waiting for the water to heat. The tables are crooked, as always. One chair leans like it has secrets. The paint is peeling off the signboard outside, something else your master keeps forgetting to fix. But this is your world. And today, like every other day, you'll pour tea, dodge complaints, and perhaps, if luck smiles on you, get through it all without dropping a single cup. Section 2. Washing leaves and avoiding rats? The kettle hisses gently on the stove, steam rising in lazy curls that fog up your eyebrows. Time to prep the leaves. You shuffle over to the low wooden bin tucked in the corner, pulling out bundles wrapped in rice paper. Inside, the curled, fragrant leaves from Fujian, some fresh, some less so. You open one packet and breathe in. Earthy, a little bitter, slightly damp, which means someone forgot to keep the storeroom dry again. You mentally note to hide this batch for the back tables, the ones where people never seem to finish their tea anyway. You carry the leaves to the back basin, where a cracked ceramic bowl waits to rinse off the dust of the journey. Some tea masters would be offended by the idea of washing leaves. But this isn't a palace. And you're not serving a governor. This is a tea house. People want warmth and wetness. No one asks for poetry at this hour. You swirl the leaves gently, watching the water darken. Then you strain them through a bamboo sieve, careful not to splash. You've already ruined 2 tunics this week. Your master said he'd dock your wages if you stain a third. Just as you finish rinsing, you hear the familiar scritch-scritch from under the floorboards. You freeze. There it is again. You bang the ladle against the basin. Nothing. Then, a tiny squeak, and a gray tail flickers past the baseboard. You sigh. That's old Chen's rat again. He's been visiting since the spring festival, helping himself to leftover buns and the occasional lotus seed. Your master set traps, but somehow the little beast always escapes. You've secretly named him Duke. He has better manners than some of your customers. Still, you nudge the food baskets onto higher shelves, just in case. Outside, the city is starting to stir. You hear hoofbeats and the clatter of cartwheels on cobblestones. Somewhere, a temple bell rings once. Slowly, you take a moment, breathe in the quiet. The air smells of wet wood, steamed tea leaves, and faint smoke. For now, it's just you, the rising steam, and a rat named Duke sharing the silence. You smile, faintly. The real chaos hasn't started yet. That comes when the doors open. Section 3. The boss's temper and cracked teacups? The door creaks open, and a gust of morning air rushes into the tea house, bringing with it the first wave of customers. They shuffle in one by one, mostly old men wrapped in dusty robes or young merchants still too sleepy to tie their own sandals properly. They'll be easy to please. They only need tea, not company. You already know what's coming next. From the back of the room, you hear the unmistakable shuffle of your master's slippers. They slap the wooden floor in the rhythm of frustration. His temper is always as predictable as the rising sun, and today it's particularly sharp. You brace yourself. Master Li appears from behind the curtain. He's holding a teapot that looks like it's seen better centuries. He's muttering something under his breath, clearly displeased. No doubt, someone has dared to use the wrong blend of leaves last night. Or, worse yet, someone's forgotten to sweep the floor again. Xiao Ling, he calls in that low, gravelly voice that's just above a whisper, but carries the weight of a mountain. Come here. This teapot, again. Do you not see the cracks? You glance at the chipped edges of the porcelain. It's the fourth one this month. Yes, Master Li, you reply softly, careful to avoid making eye contact. Too much eye contact means too many questions. He sighs dramatically, as if the weight of the entire tea house rests on his hunched shoulders. What am I to do with you? You wonder if he'll even remember that he asked you to clean the back room last night, or that he promised to replace the cracked teapot after the last one broke. Probably not. Instead, he waves a dismissive hand, as if the whole thing is beneath him. He stops mid-sentence, noticing a customer at the door, waiting to be seated. His face softens instantly. In an awkward shuffle, he attempts to adopt the mannerisms of a gracious host. The transformation is seamless. Master Li can turn a moment of fury into an act of diplomacy faster than you can say, green tea. You take the cracked teapot from his hand and set it gently on the counter, careful not to make it any worse. It's almost a talent, avoiding further damage to something already beyond repair. The customers settle in. A few mutter their usual orders. A couple of them offer a nod or a smile. But you know none of them are really here for conversation. They want tea, and that's all. You pour their cups, one after another, and listen to the soft clink of porcelain against porcelain. It's a rhythm you've come to appreciate. Meanwhile, Master Li shuffles over to the corner, where a new pot of tea is brewing, too hot for the impatient regulars. Too fresh to be anything other than perfect. He whispers to himself. You hear a few murmurs of his ever-constant worry over quality. There's a certain absurdity to the way he carries himself, like the emperor of a small, fading kingdom, but you've learned to keep your thoughts to yourself, even if it's just tea and some cracked cups. In his mind, it's the whole world. Section 4. Spilled tea and ancient gossip? The morning wears on, and the tea house slowly fills with the hum of conversation, the scraping of chairs, the clinking of teacups. In the corner, an old merchant talks with a young poet, their voices rising and falling in that strange rhythm of ancient gossip. It's always the same subjects: old battles, forgotten emperors, family secrets that no one should ever know but everyone does. You find it comforting, the predictability of it all. No one ever talks about anything new. The poetry is always the same, even if the poets change. As you carry a fresh pot of tea to a table by the window, one of the older men waves you over. His robe is frayed, the seams held together by long years of use. But his eyes are sharp. Too sharp. He's the type of man who always has a story, though you're not entirely sure you're supposed to be listening to it. Girl, he says, his voice a low croak. Do you know the tale of the Yellow Emperor's lost jade? You stop, setting the pot down carefully. No, sir, you reply, trying to be polite. The smile you offer is small, just enough to acknowledge him but not too large to invite conversation. His eyes glitter, a spark of mischievous energy flickering. Ah, yes, he continues, leaning forward, voice dropping to a near whisper. It's said that the emperor hid a jade from the court. They never found it, not even after his death. Some say it's buried in the hills of Sichuan. Others think it's hidden in a woman's heart, inside a teapot, of all things. But the true story? The jade was stolen by a thief with a silver tongue. You nod, feigning interest as you begin to pour the tea, though your mind is already elsewhere. It's a good story, no doubt, but you've heard it before. And you know, if you were to ask any of the other customers, they'd tell you the same tale with slight variations. The art of gossip is never in the facts, it's in the delivery. As you turn to leave, you spill a drop of tea onto the edge of the table. The merchant's eyes narrow, but he says nothing. You quickly dab it with a cloth, hoping the mistake goes unnoticed. One of the younger patrons, A man with an unsettlingly clean robe clears his throat loudly. "Careful there," he says, his voice thick with judgment. "The Emperor's jades aren't the only thing that goes missing around here." You blink, unsure of how to respond. It's the kind of remark that could mean anything or nothing at all. He doesn't smile. Just as you're about to walk away, Master Li emerges from the back. His eyes scan the room, noting every little detail. He sees everything, even the smallest spill. You brace yourself for the reprimand, but instead, he gives you a quick nod, barely visible under his furrowed brow. It's the kind of acknowledgement that means, just get back to work. No more, no less. The strange man continues his quiet commentary. But by now, you've learned to tune out the noise. This is the way of things in the tea house. A constant hum of ancient stories, spilled tea, and fleeting glances. By the time the noon bell rings, you're lost in the rhythm of it all. There's a comfort in knowing exactly what will happen next. Just another day of tea and stories. Section 5. The last drop in the evening rush? The afternoon sun begins to dip behind the rooftops, casting long shadows that stretch across the floor of the tea house. It's that quiet time before the evening rush, a brief lull where everything slows down. You take a deep breath, inhaling the warm, herbal fragrance that fills the air. This is your favorite time of day. In the back corner, an elderly woman in a faded purple robe sips her tea in silence. You notice she's been coming here for years, always sitting in the same spot by the window, where the light softens as the day wanes. She never speaks, not to anyone. The only sound around her is the steady clink of her teacup against its saucer. You pause and watch her for a moment. There's something peaceful in her quiet routine. She could stay there for hours, and you would never disturb her. But soon enough, the first wave of customers begins to trickle in. The small, quiet haven you've come to cherish is swallowed up by the noise of the evening rush. It's time to work again. The door opens, and in they come, louder, bolder, and less concerned with manners. The merchants, the farmers, the tourists, they all want their tea. And they want it now. There's no time for idle chat anymore. It's all about efficiency. Master Li, always on edge during this time, paces between the tables, checking on the brewing pots and making sure no one lingers too long over their empty cups. He's already muttering under his breath about the number of customers who dared to ask for the tea to be hotter. You've learned to tune him out when he does this. You take a new pot to a group of travelers sitting by the door. They're discussing something in hushed voices, something about a far-off land. The kind of talk that makes you long to be anywhere but here. With your cracked teapots and the same faces, you serve them quickly, moving to the next table, and then the next. There's always more to do. The teacups seem endless, refilled time after time. You take it in stride, slipping between the tables like a shadow. Then, you hear a familiar voice, the merchant with the unsettlingly clean robe. He's back again, his eyes glinting with some new gossip to share. You roll your eyes inwardly, but outwardly, you smile politely as you pour another cup. "Ah, you're still here, I see," he says, clearly pleased to be the center of attention. "I have another story for you. This one's a good one." The Emperor's jade? Well, there's more to it than you think. You know the legend of the silver-tongued thief? Turns out, he wasn't just a thief at all. You nod, offering no response. The story will likely end the same way, with a few more details added in for flavor. You've learned that it's not about the story itself, but the telling of it. That's what people like. The evening rush continues, tea being poured, cups being refilled, the tea house filled with the quiet murmur of conversation. You move from table to table, refilling, listening, and letting the rhythm of it all settle into your bones. Soon, it will be time for the last drop, the final cup of tea before the door is locked for the night. The last of the soft clinks as customers begin to drift away into the night. For now, though, there's still tea to be served. This is part 1. If you want me to continue with part 2, please comment continue. Thank you and see you again.